Trying to stand out as a new ball python breeder in 2024 can feel like an almost impossible challenge. There are so many other breeders already in the space, and with so many other people who've already made a name for themselves, how is there any room for new people to get into the hobby and have any hope of success? In my opinion, I think that there is a huge opportunity for new people to come in and take all of the stuff that has already been proven to work and find ways to tweak it just a little bit in order to make it unique and make themselves stand out from everybody else. So for this week, we are going to be talking about some of the tips that I think that new breeders can use, or really anybody can use, in order to help themselves stand out from the crowd. My name's Steven with Leviathan Snakes, and let's get to it. The very first couple of tips that we're going to discuss are things that we have talked about or we've made videos on in the past. And because of that, I'm not going to go into a bunch of details on them right now because I feel like it would be fairly repetitive, and I want to make sure that we're getting some new content out there. So instead, if you haven't seen those videos, I'm going to link them down below, and we'll put one as the in-screen recommended video. Anyways, beyond all of that, I think that it is so important that you understand who is your target audience, who is your target customers, because if you don't know who they are and you don't know what they want from your content or from your brand, it's going to be a shot in the dark, and there's going to be no real strategy in order to make content that helps you stand out. So that is tip number one, is know who your audience is. The second tip is one that a lot of people talk about, ourselves included, but it is the idea that no matter how good your marketing is, how slick your brand is, how well people know you, it is still super, super important that you are creating the right animals for the right people. Because if you are creating animals that are too high of a price point and you are primarily targeting pet owners, there's just not going to be very much that they can buy from you because it's just out of their price range. And vice versa, if you are attracting an audience of breeders, but you aren't producing the animals that those other breeders could use to help push their projects forward, it's going to be a hard sell because you are mismatching your audience versus what you are actually producing. So making sure that you are creating the right animals for the right person, again, super, super important before we get into how you can actually stand out as a new breeder. With those two things out of the way, now we can really dive into the meat of the video. And when we are talking about marketing, because in my opinion, as a new breeder, marketing yourself is not simply a good thing to do, it is a critical piece. It is a critical step for any new business, not just any new ball python breeder, to complete in order to get themselves established and in order to make a name for yourself. But just because somebody should market themselves, it doesn't mean that everything that they do from a marketing standpoint is going to be effective. So when we are looking at effective marketing, there are 5 characteristics specifically on social media that tend to be hallmarks of really high quality, effective marketing. All 5 of these characteristics aim to achieve the same thing, but they do it in different ways, and that is that they want to bring value to the audience. So the very first thing that you can use to help bring value to your audience is that you can educate them. So this is pretty easy, and in my opinion, I think it's the easiest one to do, because if you are able to help them improve on a skill or improve their understanding on a topic, this is going to bring educational value to the audience, and therefore it's going to make them feel that your content was worthwhile. And if you can do this over and over and over again, it's going to associate positive things from your content with your brand, and very likely it will help establish you as an expert in the specific niche that you are discussing. Now, one con, or maybe one warning for the educational piece, is that generally speaking, if you are not able to adequately teach somebody something, maybe this is because all of the topics that you are discussing are things that they already know, or that you are discussing topics that don't really seem to be valuable to the person who is watching it, or that they don't really understand how you're trying to teach it. both of these avenues, they already understand everything you're trying to teach them, or that they just don't get the reason why you're talking about it, it can form a negative perception of your brand because it might seem like you don't really know what you're talking about. And in this specific avenue, if you're trying to position yourself as an expert, but everything you discuss are things that people already know, it doesn't really seem like that you really are the expert that you say you are. So overall, even though education is probably one of my favorite types of content, you can do it wrong, and it is possible to damage your brand if you are not careful with how you're making your content. The next characteristic that you can use in order to stand out from everybody else is when you are making content, making sure that you are entertaining your audience. So entertainment is probably, in my opinion, the easiest way to go viral when it comes to creating social media content and standing out. And if you are humorous, if you are able to make people laugh, this is going to allow you to reach a lot of people and, again, positively associate your brand with them because they think that you're funny, and it's really easy to support somebody that you think is funny. But the problem with entertainment content is it's really easy to find something that entertains the wrong audience. And we talk about this a lot, whether this is feeding videos, whether this is conflict-based, because again, a lot of people like seeing conflict and like seeing drama. It can draw the wrong types of people towards your brand, and the people who would have bought from you may potentially get turned off if you're so focused on driving up your views and not so much on the animals themselves or on attracting the right type of person to your business. So while entertainment content can go viral, and in my opinion is probably the most likely way to go viral, it is very, very possible that you can get the wrong sort of attention from entertainment content. The third characteristic that we want to discuss that I personally like layering into a lot of our content is warnings, because it is really, really easy to see a warning, some kind of danger is ahead, and click on it in order to make sure that you yourself are not committing whatever problem is going to cause this danger. So in this realm, I think that warning type content, this is really, really good at getting people to click on it. But the problem with warning content is that it can very easily turn into clickbait, where people click on the video because there's some kind of dire warning in the thumbnail or in the title, but when they get to the content itself, the content doesn't actually live up to the warning, and it makes it feel like that the creator tricked the audience, and if this happens too much, it will make a situation where the audience doesn't really trust the creator to deliver on what they say the video is going to be about. The fourth type of characteristic that you can try to harness in your content in order to stand out is relatability. And with relatability, the easiest way for me to kind of describe this is if you are watching a creator and it feels like you are their friend, it feels like that it's somebody that you have known for years and years and years, and you just really jive with them, this relatability, this parasocial relationship that gets developed is a form of value to the audience. And if you are able to nurture this, you can create audience members who are super, super loyal to you, and it also creates a situation where they don't really care that much about what you're saying, they just want to interact with you. So in this situation, it can create some strong bonds, but the problem with this is that it can also create situations where you don't have a strong, healthy relationship with your audience base, because it will feel like that the audience already knows everything about you, but you don't know really anything about the audience if you're from the creator's perspective. And if this ends up happening, it can be very, very easy for the creator to offend potential audience members when they don't reciprocate the feelings that the audience member has for the creator. The last characteristic that I want to talk about for this segment is inspirational content. And I love inspirational content. Content that can get you motivated and get you excited and get out there and reignite your passion, I think is so important for the hobby and really any interest that you might have. So with inspirational content, it is super, super important that you are able to deliver an emotionally charged video. And oftentimes this is oscillating between you can do this and it's going to be hard, because in most situations, both of these are true, but you have to be able to sell it. And if you don't have the personality to really sell it, it can come off as inauthentic. And if you're trying to make inspirational content and it feels inauthentic, maybe because there might be personal bias in it, or there might be some conflicts of interest, overall it can create a negative perception from your brand because it feels like that you are manipulating people, not necessarily trying to inspire them. So overall, I love inspirational content when it's done well, but I do think that it's one of the harder pieces of content to really land, especially consistently. Now that we've gotten through all of these 5 major aspects of really, really good content, I think that if you are able to layer in multiple of these into one specific video or one specific post, it is going to drastically increase the quality of it. Now, while we say that there is like educational content, there's entertainment content, you can blend these over. If you're a really, really funny person, you can educate people while entertaining them. And if you're able to put in some timely warnings that are relevant, hitting 3 of these different aspects can make one really, really, really good video. But I do think that it is possible that you can hit every single one of these aspects and still do a poor job, because you can bring a small amount of value in every given category, but unless you're bringing a large amount of value in any specific category, it's still going to kind of fade into the background noise. So I think it's super, super important to pick 1, 2, maybe 3 that are like your core aspects that almost all of your videos are going to hit on. And if you can really deliver strong value in one of these 1, 2, or 3 core aspects while sprinkling in the others, I think that this is the most realistic way in order to really stand out when you're starting as a new ball python breeder. Now, moving on from the types of content, it is so common that people ask us, how do we get our ideas? How can they come up with ideas? Because they don't know what to do a video about, or they don't know what to post about. And especially starting out, in my opinion, I think that it is so much easier and probably better to iterate on content that has already been proven to work than try to revolutionize an entirely new video from scratch. So what I mean by this is, if you know that basic care guide videos are really, really popular with the pet segment, I don't think it's a good idea for a new breeder to go out and make their ball python care guide video, because there's so many of them just like that it is going to fade away into the noise, and the videos that already have tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of views, are going to get the views anyway. So instead of it being a ball python care guide video, if you can take that concept and iterate on it in some other way. So if we're looking at all of the different aspects, let's say that we wanted to do a educational video, the ball python care guide, but we also wanted to layer in a warning. What we could do is it could be almost the same kind of video, but just with a slight different positioning, where it could be the 6 major mistakes new ball python keepers make. And while this is roughly a care guide video, it is taking the exact same type of content that you would have in a care guide. It is positioning it in a way to be a warning for new ball python keepers. So this is going to make it a more valuable piece of content to that specific audience, because it's not just giving them any general information, it's giving them the things that they definitely need to avoid. So this is a simple way where you can take content that already exists and tweak it and put a new spin on it in order to stand out. The next tip that I would give to most new people who are especially starting on YouTube, but definitely Reels, definitely TikTok, is that oftentimes when I see new breeders trying to make content, they start off way too slow. they don't dive right into the meat of the video, and because they don't do that, it might take them a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, sometimes even 5 minutes before they even get to the topic of the video. They have already lost so many potential listeners or viewers that they never get to the heart of their video, and they don't understand that that person was going to bring them value. So, in my opinion, I think that you should cut out pretty much all of your intros. You should cut out anything that doesn't directly address the topic that you are going to be discussing, and make sure that pretty much the entire video is the meat and that there's not any wasted fluff. This ties into another tip, and that is that I think that there's often an imbalance between the amount of time somebody needs to watch or listen to a piece of content from a new breeder and the actual value that they receive. So I think that this is most commonly seen in the kind of podcasts world, because these podcasts, which I love, I watch pretty much all of them every single chance that I can get, but when they're going on for 2 or 3 hours and there's no real through line, there's no real topic that everybody is staying on, what ends up happening is there might be a 5, 10, 15-minute segment that is pure gold, but it is buried within 2 hours of other fluff that doesn't really matter to anybody else watching the video unless you were watching it live. So because of this, I think that it's very, very common for reptile podcasts to get good engagement live, but then on the replays, they don't really get much because it's so hard to find what actually was valuable for anybody else who was wanting to watch it. The last tip is a personal preference, and again, because it's a personal preference, this is not something that everybody has to do, but I think that there's so many people who are creating content on social media, not just in the reptile world, that anything you can do to be perceived as a little bit better, a little bit more polished than them, will add up the more and more that you do it, and overall what ends up happening is it makes you stand out from everybody else. So this is just a big long way to say that I personally think that production quality actually matters. I think that if you can pay attention to your camera, to your audio, to your lighting, all of those different things, it is going to make you stand out from all of the other new people who didn't take the time to develop those skills, because objectively, when it's coming to the production quality, yours is better, and because it's better, it makes you stand out. Overall, I hope you guys enjoyed these tips on how to stand out as a new ball python breeder. I know that they were mostly focused on social media, and in addition to that, they're kind of really tailored for YouTube, but I do think that YouTube is an amazing platform to really get your name out there, but it is a grind, it does take a lot of time, and it is a ton of work. But if you can do it, it is so worth it, and I highly recommend anybody giving it a go. So we hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to hit the like button, leave a comment, and subscribe, and we will see you next week.